So what if I told you there are specific foods that naturally suppress ghrelin, increase GLP-1, and keep you full for 4 to 5 hours without willpower? We've all been told that foods are equal as long as the calories match. That's a lie. Some foods literally turn off hunger and others amplify it. In the next 10 minutes, you'll learn the 5 food categories that eliminate cravings naturally, why they work at a hormonal level, and exactly how to structure meals around them. You're constantly fighting hunger. You eat what's supposed to be healthy, salads, grilled chicken, rice cakes, but you're hungry again 2 hours later. Or you make it to your next meal, but you're so ravenous that you overeat. You're tired of relying on willpower when hunger is screaming at you. I'm Dr. Barbara Hessel, board certified in obesity medicine with over 25 years of experience in women's health. I've worked with thousands of women to identify the exact foods that naturally control appetite. Once you understand which foods trigger satiety hormones and which don't, hunger management becomes automatic and not a constant battle. I'm going to walk you through the 5 food categories that stop hunger at a biological level and show you how to build meals around them. Number 1, high protein foods. They're non-negotiable. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, period. It stimulates the release of satiety hormones like GLP-1, PYY, CCK. It reduces ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, by 30 to 40%, slows gastric emptying, and requires more energy to digest than carbs or fat. You're actually burning calories digesting protein. Gram per gram, protein keeps you feel fuller longer than any other food. If your meals don't start with protein, you're actually setting yourself up to be hungry. Now, you can't willpower your way through hunger when ghrelin is high, but protein shuts ghrelin down. Studies have tracked women eating identical calories, but one group was prioritizing protein, 30 grams per meal, and another eating mixed macros with moderate protein, about 15 grams per meal. The high protein group reported 60% less hunger between meals, ate 15 to 20% fewer calories at their next meal without trying, and maintained muscle while losing fat. The moderate protein group, constantly hungry, losing muscle, and struggling with cravings. So think of protein like premium fuel in a car. It burns cleaner, lasts longer, and keeps the engine running efficiently. Carbs alone are like cheap fuel. You get a quick burst and then the tank is empty. Your body needs the premium fuel to maintain satiety. Here's an immediate action you can take. Build every meal around a protein anchor, minimum 25 to 30 grams per meal. Best sources are eggs, which are 6 to 7 grams each, Greek yogurt, 15 to 20 grams per cup, chicken breast, 30 grams per 4 ounce, salmon, 25 grams per 4 ounce, cottage cheese, 14 grams per half a cup, and lean beef, which is 25 grams per 4 ounce. But protein alone isn't enough. This second food category amplifies its effects. High fiber vegetables. They create lasting fullness. Fiber slows gastric emptying, which is how quickly the food leaves your stomach. It adds physical volume without calories, and it feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce satiety hormones and stabilize blood sugar. Non-starchy vegetables are the highest fiber to calorie foods available. So 2 cups of broccoli is 60 calories and 5 grams of fiber. That same volume of pasta is 400 calories with minimal fiber. Volume matters for satiety, and vegetables deliver it. Let's face it, your stomach doesn't count calories. It measures volume and stretch. Studies show that meals with high fiber content increase fullness ratings by 30 to 40% compared to low fiber meals at the same calorie level. I have women add 2 cups of veggies to every meal without changing anything else, and they naturally ate 200 to 300 fewer calories daily because they felt full sooner. So imagine filling a suitcase with rocks versus filling it with feathers. The rocks are dense and heavy. You can pack a lot of weight in a small space. The feathers take up massive space with minimal weight. So veggies are like feathers for your stomach. They fill space, trigger stretch receptors, and signal fullness without caloric density. Here's a micro action you can take. Add 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables to every lunch and dinner. Best choices: broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, spinach, kale, peppers, zucchini, asparagus, green beans. Eat them alongside protein and before the carbs. Now, this third category is what most people get wrong. If you're starting to see how food choice changes everything, subscribe now. I release a new video every week with strategies that work with your biology and not against it. Point 3, healthy fats slow digestion, but timing matters. Fats slow gastric emptying more than any other macronutrient, which is good for satiety. They also stimulate CCK, or cholecystokinin. You don't need to remember that. A hormone that signals fullness. But here's the catch. Fat is calorically dense, 9 calories per gram versus 4 for protein and carbs. And it doesn't suppress ghrelin the way protein does. Fat works best when combined with protein and fiber and not alone. Now, this is interesting. Fat keeps you full longer, but it won't make you less hungry. I've worked with women who ate high-fat meals like avocado toast, nut butter smoothies, cheese and crackers, and then they wondered why they're still hungry even though their stomachs feel full. Here's why. Fat slows digestion, but it doesn't trigger the satiety hormones that shut down appetite. They needed protein to do that. So when we add 25 to 30 grams of protein to those same meals, hunger disappears. So ask yourself, are you eating fat-heavy meals without adequate protein, like smoothies, nut butter on toast, or salads with just dressing? Do you feel physically full, but you still want to eat? Are your meals high in fat, but you're hungry again in 2 to 3 hours? If yes, you're relying on fat without the protein and fiber that actually suppress hunger hormones. There's one more food category that completely misunderstood. Resistant starch feeds your satiety hormones. Resistant starch is a type of carbohydrate that resists digestion in the small intestine and ferments in the large intestine, feeding beneficial gut bacteria. These bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate that increase GLP-1 and PYY production. These are the same satiety hormones that GLP-1 medications mimic. Foods highest in resistant starch: cooked and cooled potatoes, cooked and cooled rice, green bananas, beans, lentils, and oats. The right carbs can increase your natural GLP-1 production by 30 to 40%. Research shows that resistant starch increases satiety hormone production and reduces subsequent calorie intake by 10 to 15%. I've had women add half a cup of cooked and cooled potatoes or white rice to meals, and they report feeling fuller longer, not because of the carbs themselves, but because resistant starch is feeding the gut bacteria that produce the satiety signals. So, what to stop? Stop avoiding all carbs because you think they cause hunger. Eating only freshly cooked starches which don't have resistant starch. What to start? Including small amounts, 1/4 to half cup of resistant starch at meals, which is meal prepped rice or potatoes, cooked and cooled overnight, beans, lentils, or oats. Combine them with protein and vegetables, never alone. This creates a complete satiety profile. Protein for GLP-1 and ghrelin suppression, fiber for volume, fat for gastric slowing, and resistant starch for gut-produced satiety hormones. Now, here's how to pull all of this together in meals that eliminate hunger for 4 to 5 hours. Here's your tonight test. Create the satiety meal template. When you combine high protein food, high fiber vegetables, moderate healthy fats, and strategic resistant starch in the right proportions, you create a meal that naturally suppresses hunger for 4 to 5 hours without willpower. Because this isn't about restriction. It's about strategic food selection that works with your satiety hormones. So think of satiety like building a fire. Protein is the kindling that gets it started fast. Fiber is the logs that burn steady and long. Fat is the slow burning coal that extends the heat. And resistant starch is the oxygen that keeps it all going. You need all 4, not just one. Tonight, build your next 3 meals using the satiety meal template. The template for every meal: start with protein anchor, 25 to 35 grams or palm-sized portion of protein. Your fiber base is 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables. Healthy fat is 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, avocado, nuts, or fatty fish, and a resistant starch, 1/4 to half cup of cooked and cooled potatoes, rice, or beans and lentils. Here's a sample meal for breakfast: 4 egg veggie scramble with spinach and peppers, 28 grams of protein. Half an avocado sliced on top for healthy fat, half a cup of roasted sweet potatoes cooked the night before for your resistant starch, and a small side of berries for fiber. Here's sample meal number 2 for lunch: 6 ounces of grilled chicken breast, 40 grams of protein. A large mixed green salad with 2 cups of raw veggies. Olive oil and vinegar dressing, 1 tablespoon. Half a cup of white beans for resistant starch and fiber. And here's sample meal number 3 for dinner: 6 ounces of salmon, 35 grams of protein plus omega-3 fats. 2 cups of roasted broccoli and Brussels sprouts, half a cup of meal prepped rice cooked and cooled for the resistant starch, drizzle with olive oil. This combination triggers multiple satiety pathways simultaneously. Protein stimulates GLP-1, PYY, and CCK while suppressing ghrelin by 30 to 40%. Fiber creates physical fullness and slows digestion. Fat delays gastric emptying, and resistant starch feeds gut bacteria that produce additional satiety signals. The result is 4 to 5 hours of natural fullness without willpower or craving. But here are the parameters: eat protein first at every meal before the carbs or fats. Space meals 4 to 5 hours apart without snacking in between. Drink 16 ounces of water with each meal. This adds to fullness and aids digestion. Track hunger at 1, 2, 3, and 4 hours after your meal to identify your optimal ratio. We want to know what works for you. Now, red flag foods that amplify hunger: eating refined carbs alone, like bread, pasta, rice cakes without protein, fiber, or fat. Liquid calories like juice, soda, and smoothies that aren't constructed in the right combination. Ultra-processed foods with added sugars. High-fat foods without protein, like nut butter alone, cheese without protein, fatty and sweet coffee drinks. You don't need more willpower. You need the right foods that naturally suppress hunger. When you build meals around protein, fiber, healthy fats, and resistant starch, hunger becomes manageable and not a constant battle. If you want to identify your specific hunger code and get a complete meal framework designed for your body, the link to my metabolic momentum assessment is in the description. You'll discover which foods work best for your hunger pattern and exactly how to structure meals for effortless satiety. And subscribe for more videos that give you science-backed strategies that actually work.